Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. As usual, I'm your host, Cody, and today we are continuing the theme of May 2021 of awesome horror franchises. So today we are talking about The Purge, the franchise that has spawned soon to be a fifth movie and a television program of 2 seasons long. I have not seen the new one. I will be seeing the new one as soon as it comes out in July. And I have not seen the television series. So I can't really tell you too much about those, other than the fact I know Ethan Hawke reprises his role from the first movie, which then ties in the season to the first movie. Pretty cool that way. But basically, if you don't know what The Purge is a referred to as a dystopian action horror film series. It is created by one James DeMonico. He is, for the most part, he's written a few different things. He did where's his list here? He wrote Jack, that starred Robin Williams. He wrote The Negotiator, that had Samuel Jackson and who was the other person in that one? Kevin Spacey, I believe. Then he did Assault on Precinct 13, Skinwalkers, which was a movie in 2006 that had Jason, who was in that one? Jason Bear? I can't remember who else was in that one. And then he did Staten Island, which was a I don't have it here. A crime movie that had Ethan Hawke, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Seymour Cassel in it. And then he began his magnum opus, I guess you could say, which is the Purge franchise. He wrote and directed the first 3 films. Then he wrote the 4th and 5th one, and then he produced and wrote the first episode of the series. He never did he direct one? Actually, that's a great question. Did he direct any of them? No, he did not. Looking at the list here, he did not direct any of the episodes of the television program. He wrote the first one, and then the stories were based on his through a couple different episodes of the 2 seasons of the television show. And then he has, television wise, he's done a lot of different things. The Crash was one of them, which was a while ago, right, on Stars, and I believe it was based on the movie of the same name. I think I can't remember. And then he has something called This Is the Night that he wrote and directed. It doesn't have a release date yet, but it has a lot of. It's produced by Blumhouse, I believe. In 1982, a teen named Anthony embarks on a quest in his town that draws in his family members. That's all it says on there. But it has Frank Grillo in it, Bobby Cannavale of many different things, but he was an Ant-Man and Ant-Man and Wasp. Naomi Watts is in it. Method Man is in it. Some other names I can recognize right now. And there's no release date on that just yet, but we'll see. And I believe it is a movie. Yeah. So we'll see what that is. But yeah, that's James DeMonico. So like I said, so the people who don't know, The Purge is essentially a dystopian future where a the government, who is run by a bunch of corrupt people, shocker, totalitarian government, I should say, in the United States, in America, have basically deemed that one night a year called Purge Night for 12 hours, everything is legal. So all crime is legal. So it includes murder, rape, arson, whatever else that's out there that's normally illegal will be legal for 12 hours only. Anybody in the United States is free to take part in it. And all crime is legal, so nothing in between those hours can never be brought back on you by the government of any type, so police or anything like that. So it's kind of a crazy thought, and the way this works is, of the 5 movies, the 4 that are out, the First Purge, which is the 4th movie, because, storytelling, tells the origins of the purge, and it basically happens like this. This group of government people decide they want to help curb crime, and the way they're going to do this is they're going to test on Staten Island for 12 hours. Anybody who stays on the island will get paid a large sum of money, but they rig it so they murder pretty much everyone around. And then that leads into the other movies, but directly ties into the television program, which then tells the story of the early purges. 2 purge nights in particular, I believe, if I read correctly. And then the last season actually has Ethan Hawke reprising his role from the first movie, directly tying that to the first movie, called The Purge, which I actually really enjoy, except for the ending. I think is trash and is really needed to not be that ending. And I understand it falls within the rules set in the movie, but it's just absolutely insanely terrible way of doing it. And I won't spoil it. I won't get you into my thought process, and you'll probably think I'm wrong, or maybe you'll agree with me. I'm not too sure. It's just I didn't care for the ending the way it happened, and it's not because a main character, spoiler, dies. It's what happens in that moment, and I didn't like the way it worked out. And I'm not talking a happy ending. I'm not talking any of that. I just don't like the way that happened because of the situation, and I would have done differently. Anyhow, the second movie then expands on the world more, because in the first movie it all centers around Ethan Hawke's family and in their home being tormented by people during the purge. The second one shows you more of the city. The third one shows you even more of the city, or the country, I should say, during Purge Night. The first Purge, like I said, shows their very first experiment on Staten Island when they're developing the Purge and the rules and things like that. And there's a new one called the Forever Purge. When I first read about this, I had an idea of how you could end the series on a real fucked up note. That would be, to me, the name, the Forever Purge. I took it the wrong way. The movie takes it a different way. So the movie, the premise is fairly simple. The annual purge ends following an election from the last year that abolished the purge. And basically, a group of purge-friendly people decide they're basically going to continue the purge unlawfully and just start murdering willy-nilly like it is the purge, but in like normal time. So Purge Night ends, and it's supposed to be the last year of the purge, and they decide, this is what I'm going from the trailer and what I read, and they basically decide, no, that's not good enough for us. We're just going to make this the Forever Purge, and we're going to oppose the government we're gonna take law in our own hands, and we're gonna do what we want. My thought was the same premise is the Purge is gonna be the last one, and my thought process was a group of these fanatics were going to through over the year, so between the Purge and what's supposed to be the last Purge, they would strategically plan a countrywide assault on government facilities that house nuclear weapons, and they would launch the nuclear weapons on the United States, causing the Forever Purge, basically just purging all of the United States, and obviously like surrounding areas on the border, and decimating all of the country. And my thought process was, you would think it all failed through different scenes because someone found out the plan, but it was that part of the plan was a ruse to draw the attention away. That's why they were able to figure it out, and they secretly already had it all set up, and they were just leading people away from the main premise. And at the end, you would think it's all done, and there's one guy who has command of everything by one press of a button, hits the button, and then cut to the satellite view of the United States as rockets launch from all over and then go up and then come back down on different parts of the country, essentially setting off many nuclear weapons all over the country, essentially destroying and decimating the country and leaving it a giant wasteland of nothing but nuclear fallout for many a moon. That was my idea. Clearly that's not I can't say clear it is. That doesn't look to see what's happening. They're taking a different direction. I took the word forever literal and saying, hey, it's the Forever Purge, because they're literally purging the United States essentially forever, because like it's going to be nuclear wasteland. They're taking in the fact that they're just basically not going to stop killing and maiming people, so the Purge is going to last forever. So that's how things differ, but basically that's how it is. I've enjoyed all the movies. I've yet to see the new one. I will be seeing the new one, like I said earlier. Maybe I'll check out the show. When I first heard about the show, my only problem with it was this. There's no way it could be as visceral as the movies, because the movies are rated R, hard Rs. They are very violent. I think that leads to a lot of the negativity that the movies get, because the movies are have a lot of very clever, I'm not going to say they're super smart and like intellectual, but basically very clever ways of using it as in a way, a satire of the government and the way our world is. And again, this is just an outside perspective and things like that. It's not for everybody. I realize that, and I can't ever sway anyone's mind. If you don't like abject horror, then you're not going to like this. It is a lot of violence. It is exposing humanity's worst traits by far of anybody who's out there. But the TV show, because of limitations of being on regular commercial television, was always going to fail, just because it wouldn't be able to get the people who enjoyed the movies to fully invest in the show. I'm almost positive. I am surprised it went 2 seasons, but I know they canceled it. I want to say halfway or a good chunk into the second season, so they knew they weren't coming back. And I don't know how the filming process was going, so I don't know if they got the cancellation order during filming. But I do know, and maybe it was later after everything was done. I can't remember how it worked, but I just knew it wasn't going to last very long. It just couldn't have the gravity of use of that violence properly because of the television rating system. If it were on a streaming platform, an Amazon, a Netflix, even a Hulu, where it wasn't commercial based and you could have a non-rating effect on it, which basically means you could do all the violence, you could have all the bad language, you could do nudity if you wanted to, you could have that more adult content that you have in the premise of the Purge itself, and I think the failing of the TV show. And I could be wrong. The TV show could be amazing. I haven't seen it. I don't even know really watched it. I was looking at the numbers earlier. The ratings were terrible, hence the reason I got canceled. Just because it couldn't live up to what the movies set as a standard, especially going into like the second and third one where they get really clever with everything, and they got real like in depth on things. It just was never going to be able to do that. So I know for a fact it's probably not going to last as long as everyone wanted it to. But I mean, going back, and again, who am I to say decisions should have been changed? But I think they should have put James. If you're out there listening, and I know this is armchair quarterback hindsight and all, you really should have. When they approached you to make this show, you probably should have said, "Hey." And I know Sci-Fi and USA were like the pushers for this. I think you probably should have said, "Hey, my vision's a little not fit for commercial television, and it really needs to be on a platform." What would have a la been like a paid service, like HBO, Showtime, Stars, Cinemax, stuff like that, or like shows like Banshee, American Gods, for example. Nowadays, Banshee's a couple years old now. Anything on HBO, Game of Thrones, obviously, is a big thing. Would have thrived better, especially since they were doing linear stories, and considered an anthology because there was no direct continued story of character-wise narrative from season 1 to 2. That from what I read, I think you, James, talking to you, should have really pushed for it being somewhere else. And no, I don't know the whole details of how it came about. I just know that the Purge could have been better and more well received by fans. Critics were never going to jump on board because it's violence for violence sake, as most of them see it, and they don't understand that there's more to it. They just see uber violence and are like, "Oh, that's disgusting." And then casual fans aren't going to be like, "Oh yeah," and I think that's why they wanted to go to the commercial TV. But I think it's a mistake. I think you should have leaned into the violence, the depravity, and you should have put it on streaming service. Is what I'm trying to say. But again, who am I to say? This is years later. Again, I haven't seen the show. It could have been amazing, and it just could have been lost in translation, as a lot of people say. But I really enjoyed the movies, and I'm really excited to see the new one. We talked a little bit on the main podcast last week, which is just not one of the reasons I'm talking about it. Is I was already going to talk about it on the show, but it just kind of led me to think about more of it and kind of thinking about it. But Paige and I will be going back and watching all of them, and maybe even the show leading up to the release on July 2nd of this year of the Forever Purge. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. As usual, I have been your host, Cody. We were talking about the Purge, and like always, let's be awesome.